What if the very love you've been searching for across the world is the same love that has been seeking you all along? Hello. Good evening. Or maybe it's already late at night where you are. Welcome to the Still Point. If you're new here, thank you for finding us. And if you subscribed, you're part of a quiet community now. People who think, who question, who seek. Sometimes I wonder about the lives on the other side of this screen. The cities, the small towns, the different corners of the world where you might be listening. The stories that brought you here. If you ever feel moved, the comments section is there. A quiet place to leave a thought, a moment, a trace of where you are. This is your refuge. For the next hour, the noise stops. The scrolling ends. You don't have to do anything. Just be here. You're safe. Let's begin. Listen to the reed and the tale it tells. How it sings of separation. Beshoizi Nachon Heki Maikinet. This is how Rumi begins. Not with doctrine, not with instruction, but with a flute. A simple reed flute, cut from the reed bed, separated from its source. And now it makes music. But the music is lament. The music is longing. The music is the soul's cry to return home. The reed was whole once, rooted in the reed bed beside the water, part of something larger, connected, belonging. But then the cut came, the separation. The reed was taken from the bed, hollowed out, holes pierced through its body. And this wounding, this emptying, this piercing, this is what allows it to sing. Do you hear what Rumi is saying? The wound is not punishment. The separation is not accident. The emptiness is not absence. All of it, the cutting, the hollowing, the piercing, is preparation, is the making of an instrument, is what allows the breath of the divine to move through you and make music of your longing. Everyone who is far from their source longs to return. Every soul separated from the beloved aches with the memory of union. You feel this ache. You have always felt it. That sense that something is missing, that you are not quite home, that there is somewhere you belong but cannot remember how to reach. That is the reed's lament. That is your lament. That is the fundamental condition of being human, to be cut from the reed bed of divine presence and to spend your life singing the song of wanting to return. Rumi knows this ache intimately. He was a respected scholar, a teacher of Islamic law, living a measured, reasonable, respectable life in Kanya. And then Shams appeared. Shamsi Tabrizi, the wandering dervish, wild, uncontained, drunk on divine love. And when their eyes met, everything Rumi thought he was dissolved. The scholar disappeared. The teacher vanished. What remained was a lover, a madman, a reed crying out for the reed bed. For months they were inseparable, locked in conversation, in silence, in the presence that needs no words. Rumi abandoned his students, neglected his family, lost himself completely in the fire of this friendship, because Shams was not just a friend. Shams was a mirror, showing Rumi his own face, his real face, the face of the soul that had been hidden beneath years of scholarship and respectability and measured living. And then Shams disappeared, vanished in the night. Some say he was murdered by jealous students. Some say he simply left. But for Rumi, the effect was the same. The beloved was gone. The mirror was shattered. The presence that had made him whole was absent. And in that absence, that unbearable separation, Rumi became the reed, became the cry, became nothing but longing made into poetry. This is when the poems began, pouring out of him like water from a broken vessel. Thousands of verses, ghazals of ecstatic love and unbearable grief, all addressed to Shams, all signed with Shams' name, as if Rumi had dissolved so completely into longing that even his name was no longer his own. He was the reed, and Shams was the reed bed, and the space between them was the music, was the poetry, was the only prayer that mattered. Listen to what the separation is teaching you. The reed's complaint is not just sadness. It is not merely grief. The Persian word is shikayat, complaint, yes, but also testimony, witness. The reed testifies to what it once knew, to the wholeness it experienced, to the belonging it remembers. And this testimony, this witness, this complaint, it keeps the memory alive. It prevents you from forgetting that you are not meant to be separate, that this ache is not your natural state, that you come from somewhere and you are meant to return. In our time, we try to fix the ache. We medicate it, distract from it, fill the emptiness with consumption, with busyness, with noise. We treat longing as a problem to solve rather than a message to receive. We want to stop feeling separate without actually returning to union. We want the comfort of the reed bed without the dissolution required to merge back into it. But Rumi says, do not try to cure the longing. The longing is the path. The separation is the journey. The ache itself is what carries you home, because only those who know they are separate can desire union. Only those who feel the wound can seek the healing. Only the reed cut from the bed can sing the song that calls others to remember their own separation and their own longing to return. The secret of the reed's music is this: it has been made hollow, emptied. The solid core has been removed. And this emptying is not diminishment. It is preparation, because only the hollow reed can receive the breath. Only the empty vessel can be filled. Only the one who has released their own agenda, their own story, their own insistence on being somebody, only they can become the instrument through which the beloved's breath moves. You have been hollowed by loss, by disappointment, by the slow erosion of certainties you once held, by the removal of identities you thought were you, by the taking away of people and positions and possessions you believed made you whole. And you experience this hollowing as destruction, as diminishment, as everything going wrong. But what if it was preparation? What if the emptying was making space? What if you were being made into an instrument? The holes in the reed are crucial. The Persian ney has specific holes, each one carefully placed, each one necessary for the music. Without the holes there is no melody. Without the wounds there is no song. Your wounds are not random. They are not meaningless. They are the precise piercings that allow divine breath to move through you in exactly the pattern needed to create your unique music. But here is what is hard to accept. The holes hurt. The hollowing aches. The separation burns. Rumi does not pretend otherwise. He does not offer you spiritual bypassing, does not say it is all an illusion or you should just be grateful. He says, yes, it hurts. Yes, the longing is real. Yes, the separation is unbearable. And this is crucial, that unbearability is not the problem. That pain is not what needs to be fixed. That ache is the very mechanism of return. Think of the reed. It does not curse the cutting. It does not rage against the holes. It does not try to fill itself back up and return to being solid. It accepts. It allows. It becomes what it has been made into. And in that acceptance, in that allowing, in that surrender to having been transformed by wounding, it discovers its purpose. It becomes music. It becomes prayer. It becomes the bridge between earth and heaven, between human and divine, between the lover and the beloved. You are that bridge. Your longing is that bridge. The ache you carry is not distance from God. It is the presence of God crying out in you for reunion with itself. The separation you feel is the beloved's own longing to be reunited with the part of itself that took form as you. Your homesickness is God's homesickness. Your grief at separation is the divine grief. You are not alone in your aching. You are the place where the aching is happening. This changes everything. Because if your longing is divine longing expressing itself through you, then the longing itself is already connection, is already relationship, is already love. You are not separate from what you long for. You are the longing, and the longing is the beloved calling to the beloved. Is God seeking God? Is love recognizing itself in the mirror of apparent separation? Rumi writes, the minute I heard my first love story, I started looking for you, not knowing how blind that was. Lovers don't finally meet somewhere. They're in each other all along. Do you see? The search is not distance. The seeking is not separation. You are looking for what is looking through your eyes. You are longing for what is doing the longing. The beloved you seek is the beloved seeking through you. But the mind cannot hold this paradox, cannot reconcile seeking and having, cannot understand how separation and union can be simultaneous. So the mind tries to fix it, tries to reach some final state where the longing stops and the having begins, tries to achieve union as an endpoint, a destination, a place you finally arrive and can rest. But the reed teaches otherwise. The reed is always separated and always connected, always cut from the bed and always remembering the bed, always hollow and always filled with breath, always wounded and always making music. The reed does not resolve the paradox. It lives in it. It sings from it. It makes beauty from the very tension between longing and belonging. This is the invitation, not to fix your longing, not to fill your emptiness, not to heal your wounds and become solid again, but to let yourself be the reed, to let yourself be hollow, to let yourself ache with the memory of union, and to let that ache become music, to let that longing become prayer, to let that separation become the very song that calls others home. Every night when Rumi whirled, he was the reed, spinning in circles, arms outstretched, one hand to heaven, one hand to earth, becoming the axis, becoming the channel, becoming nothing but the movement of love through a hollow form. He was not trying to reach God. He was letting God move through him, was offering his emptiness as the space where divine and human could meet. was making his body the flute through which the beloved's breath could sing. And the music that came through was not his own. The poetry that poured from him belonged to no one, or belonged to everyone, or belonged only to the beloved who was using his hollowness to speak love to itself. Rumi became so transparent that when you read his words, you are not reading Rumi. You are reading your own longing reflected back to you. You are hearing the reed's lament and recognizing it as your lament. You are being reminded that you too were cut from the bed. You too carry the holes. You too are meant to be music. Rest now in this recognition. Rest in being the reed. You do not need to fill yourself. Do not need to become unbroken. Do not need to stop longing or cure your ache or arrive at some final wholeness that makes the seeking unnecessary. You need only to allow, to accept, to become hollow enough that breath can move through you, to become wounded enough that music can escape you, to become nothing but longing so complete that longing itself becomes the presence of what is longed for. The reed's lament is not tragedy. It is testimony, is witness to having known union and therefore knowing that union is possible, is real, is your origin and your destiny. The ache proves the beloved is real. The longing testifies that you have tasted presence. The wound demonstrates that you were once whole, and the wholeness you remember is not past. It is beneath, is deeper than the separation, is the ground you stand on even while you sing of being cut from it. Listen to the reed. Listen to the tale it tells. The tale of separation that is secretly union. The tale of wounding that is actually preparation. The tale of longing that is itself the presence of the beloved. Listen, and let yourself be the reed. Let yourself lament. Let yourself testify to the unbearable ache of being apparently separate from what you were made of, made by, made for. And in that allowing, in that becoming, in that surrender to being nothing but hollow longing, discover that the breath is already moving through you. The music is already sounding. The beloved is already breathing through the holes that you thought were just wounds. Already singing through the emptiness you thought was just absence. Already making love songs of your lament. You are the reed, cut from the bed but carrying its memory, hollowed by life but prepared for breath, wounded by separation but made capable of music. And the song you sing, whether you know it or not, is always the same song. The only song. The eternal song that every reed sings and has always sung. I was whole. I am separate. I long to return. And the longing itself is the returning. The song itself is the union. The reed itself is both the distance and the bridge. Rest in this. Rest as this. Rest knowing that your ache is sacred. Your longing is prayer. Your separation is preparation for a reunion so complete that lover and beloved will be indistinguishable. That you and what you seek will be revealed as one. That the reed will return to the bed not as the reed but as the bed itself. Not as the part but as the whole. Not as the separated but as the union that was never actually broken. Listen to the reed. The tale it tells is your tale. The lament it sings is your song. The longing it carries is your deepest truth. You are far from your source, and you long to return. And the longing is the returning, and the returning has already begun. Beshno, listen, the reed is speaking, and the reed is you. There is a tavern that exists in no geography. a wine shop that appears on no map. Rumi calls it the Tavern of Ruin. Karabat, the place where everything you think you are goes to die, where the self dissolves, where reason surrenders, where respectability burns away and only love remains. This is not a physical place, though Rumi writes of it as if it were, describes the cupbearer, the wine, the fellow drunkard stumbling in divine intoxication. But he is speaking in code, in metaphor, in the symbolic language that Sufi mystics use to speak of things that cannot be spoken directly. The tavern is a state of consciousness. The wine is spiritual ecstasy. The drunkenness is the dissolution of ordinary awareness into direct experience of the divine. And ruin, that word is crucial. This is not the tavern of enlightenment, not the wine shop of spiritual achievement, not the bar where you go to become better, wiser, more evolved. This is the place of ruin, of destruction, of the complete dismantling of everything you have built. Your identity, your certainties, your carefully constructed sense of who you are and how the world works. All of it must be ruined before the real can be revealed. In Islamic Persia, taverns were forbidden. Wine was prohibited. For a respected scholar, a teacher of religious law like Rumi to speak constantly of wine and drunkenness in taverns was scandalous, was dangerous, could have cost him everything. And it did cost him everything. His students abandoned him. His colleagues condemned him. His reputation was destroyed. He became known as the drunk, the madman, the one who threw away respectability for love. But this is exactly the point. You cannot enter the tavern of ruin while clinging to respectability, cannot drink the wine while protecting your reputation, cannot become spiritually intoxicated while maintaining careful control over how you appear to others. The tavern requires total abandon, requires you to stop caring what anyone thinks, requires you to let your carefully managed self be destroyed. The cupbearer in the tavern is the beloved, is God pouring the wine of divine presence directly into your cup. But here is what is difficult. The wine destroys before it illuminates, ruins before it reveals. You think you are coming to the tavern to feel good, to get high, to escape the pain of separation. But the wine does not work that way. First it burns. First it strips away. First it shows you everything you have been hiding behind. Every defense, every pretense, every way you have been performing yourself rather than being yourself. Rumi experienced this burning directly. After shams disappeared, he did not become more spiritual, did not become calmer, more peaceful, more serene. He became wild, undone. He wandered the streets calling sham's name. He whirled for hours until he collapsed. He spoke in poetry that made no logical sense but carried the force of something beyond logic. He had entered the tavern, had drunk the wine, and the wine was ruining him in exactly the way that needed to happen. Because what was being ruined was not his essence, was not his soul, was not his deepest truth. What was being ruined was the false self, the constructed identity. The Rumi who was a scholar, a teacher, a respectable member of society. That Rumi had to die, had to be completely dismantled, so that what he truly was, pure longing, pure love, pure opening to the divine, could emerge without the costume of personality covering it. This is the secret teaching of the tavern. Spiritual transformation is not addition, is not becoming more, is not acquiring qualities you do not have. It is subtraction, is removal, is the stripping away of everything that is not essential until only essence remains. You do not go to the tavern to get something. You go to lose everything. And in that losing, in that ruin, in that complete destruction of who you thought you were, you discover who you actually are. The wine of divine love is dangerous because it makes you unfit for ordinary life. Once you have tasted it, once you have felt the intoxication of direct divine presence, everything else tastes flat. Your career stops mattering. Your social status becomes meaningless. Your carefully planned future loses all appeal. You become useless for the projects of the ego, become incapable of playing the games that society requires, become ruined for anything except love. And this ruin is not metaphorical. It has real consequences. Rumi lost students, lost income, lost the respect of his community. People thought he had gone mad. And in a sense he had gone mad with love, had let love destroy his sanity in the conventional sense, had allowed the intoxication to take him so far beyond ordinary consciousness that there was no way back to being the person he was before. But Rumi did not want to go back, did not want to recover his sanity, did not want to be cured of his madness, because the madness was truth. The intoxication was clarity. The ruin was the only real building that had ever happened in his soul. Everything before the tavern was sleep. Everything before the wine was absence. Everything before shams, before love, before the divine cup being pressed to his lips, all of it was just preparation for this holy destruction. You are afraid of this ruin, afraid of what it would mean to let go of control, to stop managing your image, to allow yourself to be seen as foolish, as excessive, as too much. You have spent your whole life building your identity, your career, your relationships, your understanding of who you are, and the tavern asks you to let it all burn, to pour the wine of divine presence over everything you have constructed and watch it dissolve. This is why most people never enter the tavern. They stand outside. They read about it. They admire those who have drunk the wine, but they do not cross the threshold themselves, because crossing the threshold means abandoning safety, means giving up the known for the unknown, means accepting that you will be ruined, that your life will never look the same, that you will never fit comfortably back into the world you knew. But some people have no choice. Some people are seized, are grabbed by love and dragged into the tavern whether they want to go or not. The wine is forced into their mouths. The intoxication overtakes them, and they discover that resistance is impossible. That once the divine has decided to ruin you, there is no defense, no way to protect yourself, no way to maintain your carefully constructed life while also drinking this wine. Rumi writes that in the tavern, all are equal. The king and the beggar, the scholar and the fool, the saint and the sinner, because the wine does not care about your credentials, does not ask for your resume, does not require proof that you are worthy. The wine is given freely, poured lavishly, offered to anyone who will open their mouth and drink. The only requirement is willingness. Willingness to be destroyed. Willingness to let everything you have been proud of be stripped away. And in this stripping away, in this holy ruin, something unexpected happens. You discover that beneath the constructed self, beneath the defended ego, beneath all the layers of who you thought you had to be, there is something indestructible. Something that cannot be ruined because it was never constructed. Something that is not your identity but your essence. Not what you have made yourself into, but what you have always been. This essence is what the Sufis call the true self, the divine spark, the soul that was never separate from God but only forgot its origin. And the wine of the tavern does not create this essence, does not add it to you. It only reveals it, only strips away everything that was covering it, only ruins the false so the true can shine through without obstruction. But the revelation is terrifying, because when the false self is stripped away, you do not know who you are anymore. All your reference points are gone. All your certainties dissolved. You are naked, exposed, without protection. And in this exposure you feel you might die, might disappear completely, might dissolve into nothing. And you will dissolve. That is the point. The separate self will die. The one who walks around thinking they are an independent entity, a solid identity, a person who exists apart from everything else, that one will be ruined, will be destroyed, will be annihilated by the wine. But what remains after this annihilation is not nothing. It is everything. It is the recognition that you were never separate, that the boundaries you thought defined you are illusions, that you are not a drop that might dissolve into the ocean, but the ocean experiencing itself as a drop. This is the mystical teaching that Rumi encodes in the tavern metaphor. The spiritual path is not about self-improvement, is not about becoming a better version of yourself. It is about the complete dissolution of self, the utter ruin of the one who thinks they are someone, the total destruction of the ego that believes it is in charge. And this destruction is not tragedy. It is liberation, is the only freedom that actually exists. In the tavern, time stops. Past and future dissolve. You are not the person who entered, are not planning to be someone when you leave. You are simply here, now, drinking, dissolving, being destroyed and remade in every moment. The wine keeps pouring, the cupbearer keeps serving, and you keep drinking until there is no you left to drink, only drinking happening, only love moving through a form that no longer claims to own the experience. Rumi writes that the people outside the tavern condemn those inside. Call them drunkards, wasters, fools who have thrown away their lives. And from outside it does look like ruin. Looks like people who have lost everything. Lost their ambition, lost their drive, lost their participation in the world's projects and goals. But those inside know something the outside cannot see. Know that what was lost was worthless. Know that the ruin was of prisons, not palaces. Know that they have not lost but found, not been diminished but expanded beyond all previous boundaries. The question is, will you enter? Will you walk through the door of the tavern knowing that you will not come out the same? Will you accept the cup knowing that the wine will ruin you? Will you allow love to destroy everything you have built in order to reveal what was always there beneath the building? Or will you stay outside? Stay safe. Stay in control. Stay as the person you have been. Keep your reputation intact. Keep your identity solid. Keep your life manageable and explainable and acceptable to those who have never tasted the wine. There is no judgment either way. The tavern does not condemn those who do not enter, does not say they are wrong or less spiritual or missing out. The tavern simply exists. The door is always open. The wine is always flowing. And those who are meant to enter will enter. Those who are seized by love will find themselves inside before they consciously chose to walk through the door. But for those who do enter, for those who do drink, for those who do allow the wine to ruin them, there is no going back. Cannot unknow what the intoxication reveals. Cannot reconstruct the self that dissolved. Cannot return to caring about the things that once seemed so important. You are ruined. Beautifully, completely, eternally ruined. Ruined for anything except love. Ruined for any project except surrender. Ruined for any goal except dissolving more and more fully into the presence of the beloved. And this ruin, Rumi promises, is the only success that matters. Is the only achievement worth pursuing. Is the only transformation that is actually transformation rather than just rearrangement of the furniture of the ego. The tavern ruins you into truth, destroys you into reality, annihilates you into what you have always been but could not see while the false self was blocking the view. So come to the tavern, or do not come, but know that it is here, that the door is open, that the wine is being poured, and that inside there are drunkards stumbling in divine ecstasy, laughing at what the sober world calls important, celebrating the beautiful ruin of everything that was never real to begin with. The cupbearer is waiting. The beloved is pouring. And the wine that will ruin you is also the wine that will reveal you, will destroy the false and liberate the true, will burn away everything you are not until only what you are remains, shining in its own light, no longer needing anything, no longer seeking anything, no longer being anyone, just love loving itself through a form that has finally stopped pretending to be anything other than that. Drink. Be ruined. Be free. The wound is where the light enters you. This is what Rumi discovered. Not in theory, not as philosophy, but through the actual piercing of his heart, through the unbearable pain of separation from shams, through the opening that grief carved into his chest, an opening that let divine light pour in precisely because it hurt so much. We spend our lives trying to avoid being wounded, building defenses, creating armor, protecting the heart from anything that might pierce it. We call this wisdom. Call it self-care. Call it healthy boundaries. And perhaps sometimes it is. But Rumi teaches something dangerous, something the ego does not want to hear. That the wound itself is the gift, that being pierced is being opened, that the pain you have been avoiding is the very mechanism of your transformation. When shams disappeared, Rumi was destroyed. His heart did not just ache. It was shattered, broken open, pierced through. And in that piercing, something happened that could not have happened any other way. The careful container he had built around himself, the scholar, the teacher, the respectable religious authority, cracked completely. And through the cracks, through the wound, divine presence flooded in. This is the paradox of the spiritual wound. It hurts, genuinely hurts. It is not metaphorical pain, but actual agony. The loss of the beloved, the shattering of identity, the collapse of everything you believed would keep you safe. You do not want this wound, would give anything to avoid it, to heal it, to close it up and return to being intact. But Rumi says, do not heal too quickly. Do not close the wound. Let it stay open. Let it keep bleeding. Because what is bleeding out is illusion, and what is entering through the opening is truth. In Sufi teaching, there is a concept called ishq, divine love, but not the gentle, comfortable love of devotional poetry. Ishq is violent love, consuming love, the love that destroys you. Ishq is the arrow of the beloved shot directly into your heart. And when it pierces you, you do not recover. Do not heal. Do not become whole again in the way you were before. You remain wounded. Beautifully, perpetually, sacredly wounded. And this wound becomes your identity, your purpose, your connection to the divine. You are the wounded one, the pierced one, the one carrying the arrow of love in your chest. And the arrow hurts, but you would not remove it if you could, because the pain of the wound is your only proof that the beloved is real, that you have been touched by something beyond yourself, that you are not alone in your longing but have been chosen, have been struck, have been claimed by love. Rumi writes that the pain of love is better than 1,000 joys, that the wound of longing is sweeter than any satisfaction. This sounds like masochism, like spiritual self-harm, but he is pointing to something subtle, something the comfortable mind cannot grasp, that there are two kinds of pain: the pain of the ego, bitter, contracting, defensive, and the pain of the soul, sweet, expanding, opening. And the wound of love is the second kind. Hurts terribly, but in the hurt there is also bliss, also expansion, also a strange joy that has nothing to do with happiness. When you are wounded by love, you become porous, permeable. The boundaries that separated you from everything else become questionable. You are no longer so sure where you end and the world begins. No longer so certain of the division between self and other, between inside and outside. The wound has opened you, made you vulnerable, made you unable to maintain the fiction of being separate and protected and intact. And in this porousness, this vulnerability, this inability to maintain boundaries, you discover something. You discover that separation was the illusion, that the boundaries were never real, that what you called yourself was just a temporary construction, a defense against the overwhelming truth that you are not separate, have never been separate, are part of the infinite flow of love that moves through everything. But you could not know this while you were defended, could not experience it while you were intact. The walls had to come down, the armor had to crack, the heart had to break open, not because God is cruel, not because the universe enjoys your suffering, but because you built the walls so strong that nothing else could get through. You armored yourself so completely that even divine love could not reach you, until the arrow came, until the wound opened you, until pain accomplished what pleasure never could, the complete dissolution of your defenses. This is why Rumi celebrates the wound, why he does not pray for healing but for more wounding, more opening, more piercing by the arrows of divine love. He has discovered that the wound is not the problem. The wound is the solution, is the doorway, is the mechanism through which the finite opens to the infinite, is how the drop discovers it is ocean, is how the soul remembers it is God. And the beloved who wounds you is not cruel, is not punishing you, is doing the only thing that can free you. Imagine a surgeon cutting into flesh. From outside it looks like violence, looks like harm. But the surgeon knows something the patient cannot see while unconscious. Knows that the cutting is healing, that the wound is necessary, that only by opening the body can the disease be removed. The beloved is the surgeon. You are the patient. And the disease is separation, is the belief that you are isolated, independent, alone. This belief is killing you, slowly, invisibly, cutting you off from the source of life itself. And the only cure is to be cut open, to be wounded so deeply that the belief cannot survive, to be pierced through so completely that separation becomes impossible to maintain. But here is what is hard. The wounding does not happen once, does not finish. The beloved keeps shooting arrows, keeps opening new wounds. Just when you think you have been hurt enough, have been open enough, have surrendered enough, another arrow comes, another loss, another shattering, another collapse of something you thought was solid. And you cry out, why more? Why again? I have already been broken, already been opened, already given up everything. Why must I be wounded again? And the answer is, because there are still places in you that are closed, still defended, still clinging to separation, still believing in boundaries. And love is relentless, will not stop until every defense is down, until every wall has crumbled, until you are completely, utterly, perfectly vulnerable. This vulnerability is not weakness, is not foolishness, is the strongest thing you can be, because it means you are no longer trying to protect yourself from life, no longer trying to control your experience, no longer trying to avoid pain and pursue pleasure. You are open, bleeding, raw, and in that rawness, you are finally real, finally authentic, finally meeting life without the mediation of defense. Rumi's poetry poured from this wound. Every ghazal, every verse, every image of longing and ecstasy and unbearable love. He was not writing from knowledge, was not composing from technique. He was bleeding, and the blood was poetry. The wound was speaking, and what it spoke was the truth that only the wounded know, that only those who have been pierced can testify to. That separation is the wound, and the wound is the healing. And healing is not closure but permanent openness to love. You carry your own wounds, the losses that broke you, the betrayals that shattered you, the deaths that opened you, the disappointments that crushed you. And you have tried to heal them, tried to close them, tried to move on and be whole again. But what if moving on is missing the point? What if the wound is meant to stay open? What if the broken place is precisely where you are most real, most alive, most connected to the divine? This does not mean wallowing, does not mean identifying with victimhood, does not mean refusing to function in the world. It means recognizing that the wound has changed you, that you are not the same person you were before it, that trying to return to who you were is trying to reconstruct a prison. The wound freed you, opened you, gave you access to depths you did not know existed. And now you live from the wound, not from the defended place, not from the armored place, but from the open place, the vulnerable place. The place that hurts but also feels everything more intensely. The place that bleeds but also breathes. The place that was pierced by love and remains permanently open to love's continued piercing. Rumi teaches that the wound becomes your eyes, that you begin to see through it, that it gives you vision you did not have when you were intact. You see others' wounds, recognize them, feel them, know them as your own. The boundaries between your pain and others' pain dissolve. You ache with the world's aching. Feel the longing that pulses through everything. And this is not burden, is gift, is the beginning of real compassion, real connection, real love. Because love is not possible from behind walls, cannot flow between defended positions, requires openness, requires vulnerability, requires the willingness to be wounded and to wound, to hurt and be hurt, to break and be broken, not out of cruelty, but out of the recognition that only the broken are open enough to receive and give the kind of love that matters. The kind of love that is not transaction but transmission, not exchange but merging, not meaning but union. And union requires the death of separation, requires the boundaries to disappear, requires you to stop being a separate self defending against other separate selves, requires the wound, requires the opening, requires the pain that is also pleasure, the loss that is also finding, the death that is also birth. So do not pray for the wound to close. Pray instead for the courage to keep it open, to let it keep bleeding truth, to let it keep breathing divinity, to let it keep being the doorway through which love enters and leaves you, flowing through without obstruction, making you not a container but a channel, not a keeper but a giver, not an individual but an opening. The beloved's arrow is still flying, still seeking your heart, and you can dodge, can defend, can build walls thick enough that nothing can penetrate, or you can stand exposed, chest open, arms wide, inviting the piercing, welcoming the wound, knowing that what looks like destruction is actually the only construction that matters, that you are not being killed but birthed, not being ended but begun, not being wounded but open to the love that has been trying to reach you all along. Bleed. Stay open. Let the wound be your prayer. Let the pain be your proof. Let the piercing be your portal. And discover what Rumi discovered, that the wound is not what separates you from the beloved. The wound is where the beloved lives, where love takes up residence, where the infinite makes its home in the finite. You are the wound, and the wound is sacred, and the bleeding is prayer, and the pain is presence, and the arrow will keep coming, and you will keep being pierced, and each piercing will open you more, until there is no you left, only openness, only wound, only the place where love enters and never leaves because there is no longer any boundary to cross, any wall to penetrate, any defense to overcome. Just opening, just bleeding, just love flowing through love, recognized finally as what it always was. Not separate, not other, not even relationship. Just the wound, just the light, just the truth that separation was always the only lie, and the pain of separation the only thing real enough to break the lie open and let truth pour in. Rest in your wound. It is holy ground. It is where you are most yourself, most alive, most real. The wound is the blessing. The wound is the gift. The wound is where the light enters you. And the light is love. And love is the beloved. And the beloved is you. Wounded open. Finally. Completely. Beautifully. Spin. Turn. Revolve. This is the Sema, the whirling ceremony that Rumi made sacred, not as performance, not as spectacle, but as prayer in motion, as the body's way of dissolving into love, as the physical manifestation of what the soul does when it stops resisting and surrenders completely to the pull of the divine. The whirling dervish wears white, a white robe that represents the shroud, the death garment, because to whirl is to die, not physically, but the death that matters more, the death of self, the death of ego, the death of the one who thinks they are separate. You put on the white robe knowing you will not return as the person who put it on. The spinning will take you, will dissolve you, will turn you into motion itself until there is no you left, only turning. And on your head, the tall felt hat, the tombstone, another symbol of death, of the death required for birth into truth. You are walking into your own funeral, willingly, joyfully, because you have finally understood that the one who must die was never alive in the way that matters, was just a construction, a story, a temporary collection of thoughts and memories pretending to be solid. And the whirling will prove this, will demonstrate beyond doubt that you are not solid, are not fixed, are not anything but movement in space and the presence that watches the movement. The ceremony begins in stillness. The dervishes stand, silent, facing the sheikh who represents the sun, who represents the beloved, who represents the still point around which everything revolves. And then the turn begins. Slow at first, right foot pivoting, left foot stepping, arms crossed over chest like a closed bud, like someone protecting themselves, like the defended self before it opens. But gradually the arms rise, open, one hand to heaven, one to earth, the right palm up, receiving, the left palm down, giving. And in this gesture, you become what you always were but forgot. Become the channel. Become the bridge between above and below. Become the axis around which heaven and earth meet. You are not receiving for yourself, are not keeping what comes. You receive from above and give to below. Receive divine grace and pour it into the world. Become transparent. Become transmission. And the spinning accelerates. Faster. The white robe opens like a flower, like wings, like a tornado of fabric and flesh spinning around a still center. And you find it, the still center, not by seeking it, but by spinning so fast that everything else falls away and only the center remains. The paradox, absolute motion reveals absolute stillness. Complete activity discloses perfect rest. This is what Rumi discovered in his grief. After Shams vanished, he walked the streets of Konya calling his name, searching, desperate. And then one day he grabbed a pole and began to turn, to spin, to whirl. And in the spinning he found what searching could not find. Found that he was not separate from Shams. That Shams was not gone. That when the self dissolved through spinning, what remained was love. And love was Shams. And Shams was God. And God was not other. Was not distant. Was the very axis of his turning. Was the stillness at the center of all motion. The whirling is physics-made prayer. The body demonstrates what the mind cannot grasp. That you are not the center. That trying to be the center creates all suffering. That the center is elsewhere. Is the beloved. Is the sun you orbit. Is the pole star you circle. And when you stop trying to be your own center, stop trying to make yourself the reference point, stop trying to hold still while everything moves around you, when you surrender that impossible project and begin to spin, then you discover your true nature. Not center but orbiter. Not sun but planet. Not God but lover of God. And in that discovery, all the suffering of trying to be what you are not dissolves. Watch a child spin. They do it naturally, spontaneously, arms out, head back, spinning until they fall. And in that falling there is joy, pure joy, not despite the dizziness, but because of it. Because for a moment the world is not solid. The boundaries are not fixed. Everything is motion and light and the delicious loss of control. We tell children to stop spinning. Say they will get hurt. Say they will get sick. Say they need to hold still and be contained and maintain equilibrium. And slowly we train the spinning out of them. Train the ecstasy out. Train the surrender out. Until they become adults who are terrified of losing control, of letting go, of spinning. But Rumi returns to the child's wisdom, returns to the recognition that spinning is natural, that the universe is spinning, that galaxies whirl, that atoms orbit, that everything in existence is motion, is dance, is turning, and we alone, in our defended egos, try to hold still, try to maintain position, try to stay solid while everything else flows. And this holding still is exhausting, is the source of all tension, is the fight that cannot be won because stillness is death and life is motion and you are alive whether you admit it or not. So the whirling is permission, permission to move, permission to flow, permission to let the defended position dissolve. You begin to spin and immediately the mind objects, says this is dangerous, says you will fall, says you need to maintain control. And at first you listen, spin slowly, carefully, maintaining awareness of where you are, maintaining the sense of being someone who is choosing to spin, someone who could stop at any moment, someone who is in charge. But if you continue, if you spin long enough, if you surrender to the motion, something shifts. The one who is choosing to spin disappears. There is just spinning. The one who could stop disappears. There is just turning. The one who is in charge disappears. There is just motion. And in that disappearance, in that dissolution of the controller, you discover something shocking. You discover that you are fine, that you do not fall, that the body knows what to do, that there is an intelligence in the spinning itself that is wiser than your careful management ever was. This is the body's enlightenment, not the mind understanding, not the intellect grasping, but the flesh knowing through experience that it is held, that there is a center, that the center is not you, that you can stop trying to be the center and everything works better. You can surrender control and you are more coordinated. You can let go and you are more stable. The paradox the mind cannot believe, but the body proves. And the music, the nave flute, the drums, the chanting, the music is not accompaniment, is not background. The music is teaching, is demonstrating, is revealing the structure of reality. The rhythm shows you when to step. The melody shows you how to flow. The silence between notes shows you where the presence lives. And you do not follow the music. You become the music. Your spinning is not to the rhythm, but is the rhythm. You are not dancing to the sound, but are the sound made visible. Our love hearing itself through human form. Hours pass, but time has no meaning in the spin. You are not aware of duration, only of turning, only of the continuous present of motion. Past and future have dissolved because they require a fixed point from which to measure. Require someone standing still saying this is before and this is after. But you are not standing still, are not a fixed point, are moving. And in the moving there is only now, only this turn, only this breath, only this opening of arms and this reception of grace and this giving of grace and this being nothing but the space through which grace flows. And then, when the time comes, and there's a right time, a moment the body knows even when the mind does not, the spinning slows. The arms lower. The turning decreases. And you stop. Stand still. But you are not the same still you were before. The stillness is different. Is not held. Is not defended. Is not maintained through effort, is natural, is effortless, is the stillness that includes all motion, is the rest that contains all activity, is the peace that has danced through chaos and found itself unchanged. You bow, touch your forehead to the ground, and in that bow you acknowledge what the spinning revealed. That you are not your own, that you belong to something larger, that the center you orbited is real and present and holding you even now in stillness just as it held you in motion. You are owned, claimed, possessed by love, and this possession is not slavery but freedom. Because when you stop trying to possess yourself, stop trying to be your own master, stop trying to maintain independent existence, then you are free to be what you are, which is nothing separate, which is everything connected, which is love dancing with itself through a form that has finally stopped pretending to be anything else. The whirling is contagious. Those who watch begin to feel it. The pull to turn, the permission to move, the invitation to let go. This is why the Sema is public, why it is witnessed, because the spinning speaks to something in everyone, something that knows it is meant to move, meant to flow, meant to surrender to the rhythm that pulses through all things. You watch a dervish roll and something in you remembers that you too are motion, are dance, are meant to spin until the separate self dissolves and only love remains. But you do not need the ceremony, do not need the formal structure, do not need the white robe or the music or the sheik or the others whirling around you. You need only to turn, to spin, to let your body remember what your mind has forgotten, that you are not meant to hold still. are not meant to maintain fixed position, are meant to orbit, to revolve, to turn around the center that is not you but is what you are made of, made for, made by. Stand now, even if only in imagination, even if only in the privacy of your own room. Stand and begin to turn, slowly, arms crossed, then opening, right hand to heaven, left hand to earth, and turn. And as you turn, notice what happens. Notice the mind's objections. Notice the body's resistance. Notice the fear of losing control. And keep turning. Keep spinning. Keep allowing the motion to be. And notice what happens after. When the objections quiet. When the resistance softens. When the fear gives way to something else. Notice the settling, the grounding, the strange stability that comes from having moved. Notice that you have not fallen, have not been destroyed, have not lost yourself but found yourself in a new way, found yourself as motion, as flow, as dance. This is what Rumi offers, not a doctrine to believe, not a practice to master, but an invitation to move, to turn, to spin until the separate self dissolves and what remains is love whirling with itself, recognizing itself in the mirror of motion, celebrating itself through the ecstasy of letting go. The universe is spinning. Your blood is circulating. Your breath is flowing. Your cells are dancing. Everything in you and around you is motion. And you, trying so hard to hold still, are fighting the fundamental nature of existence. So stop fighting. Start spinning. Let the whirling take you. Let the motion dissolve you. Let the turning reveal that there never was a fixed you to lose. Only the beloved spinning in love with itself. Only God dancing in the disguise of form. Only love turning and recognizing its own face in every direction it looks. Spin until you disappear. Spin until only spinning remains. Spin until you discover that the center you are orbiting is inside you. Is you. Is what you have been all along beneath the illusion of separation. Spin until you are still. Spin until you are free. Spin until you are home. The whirling is calling. The motion is waiting. The dance is here. And you are the one who is meant to spin. You are the dervish. You are the prayer in motion. You are love learning to turn without holding anything back. So turn, beloved, turn, and in the turning, be turned, be transformed, be dissolved into the motion that has been moving you all along, the motion that is love, the motion that is God, the motion that is your deepest nature finally revealed. Turn, and in the turning, come home. There comes a moment when searching stops, not because you have found what you were looking for, but because you discover you were never separate from it. The seeker dissolves into the sought. The lover merges with the beloved. And what remains is not two who have come together, but one who was always one but forgot and is now remembering. This is fana, the word Sufis use for annihilation, for the complete dissolution of the separate self into divine reality. But annihilation sounds like ending, like destruction, like loss, and it is all these things. But it is also birth, also revelation, Also the discovery that what you thought you were losing was only what was keeping you from what you are. Rumi arrived at this recognition not through study, not through technique, not through years of disciplined practice leading to gradual refinement. He arrived through being shattered, through losing shams, through the wound that would not close, through the whirling that would not stop, through poetry that poured from him like blood from a severed artery. And somewhere in that pouring, in that bleeding, in that continuous outflow, he disappeared. The man who was Rumi, the scholar, the teacher, the personality with its preferences and opinions and sense of being someone, that one vanished. And what replaced it was not another personality, not a better self, not an enlightened version of Rumi. What replaced it was love itself, pure, uncontained, flowing through a form that no longer claimed to own the experience. This is the secret of union. You cannot achieve it, cannot make it happen, cannot follow steps that guarantee arrival, because the one who wants to achieve union is the obstacle to union. The separate self seeking to merge is the separation. The lover trying to reach the beloved is the distance. As long as there is someone trying, there is someone separate. And as long as there is someone separate, union is impossible. So union comes not through effort, but through exhaustion, through the complete collapse of the project of being someone, through trying so hard and failing so completely that finally you give up. Finally you stop. Finally you surrender, not as a strategic move, but as the only thing left when all strategies have failed. And in that surrender, in that giving up, in that final release of the attempt to control your own transformation, union happens. Not as achievement, but as recognition. Not as arrival, but as revelation of what was always true. The drop does not become the ocean. This is the mistake people make. They imagine union as the drop dissolving into vastness, as the small self expanding into the large self, as the individual merging with the universal. But Rumi points to something more radical, more impossible to grasp. The drop discovers it was always ocean, was never actually separate, was ocean experiencing itself as drop, playing at limitation, pretending at boundary. And union is not the drop expanding, but the drop recognizing. Not becoming ocean, but remembering it never stopped being ocean. This recognition destroys the world. Not the physical world, but the world of meaning you built on the assumption of separation. The entire structure of I and other, of subject and object, of lover and beloved, all of it collapses. Because if there is only ocean, if there is only one, if separation was always illusion, then everything you thought you knew is wrong. Everything you believed about yourself is fiction. Everything you were trying to achieve was already the case. And this is terrifying, more terrifying than death, because death leaves you intact as the one who dies. But this leaves nothing intact. This dissolves the very one who might be terrified. This removes the ground you stand on, the reference point you navigate from, the sense of being someone who is having an experience. In union, there is no one left to experience union. No one left to celebrate arrival. No one left to say, I have found it. Only the beloved. Only love. Only the one pretending it was two and now admitting the pretense. Rumi writes that when the lover is annihilated in love, only love remains. Not the lover loving. Not the beloved being loved. Just love. Loving itself. Through forms that appear separate but are secret chambers of the one heart. secret notes of the one song, secret waves of the one ocean. And in this recognition, everything changes and nothing changes. The world looks the same. You still have a body, still have thoughts, still have relationships and responsibilities and the appearance of being an individual person. But the relationship to all of it transforms, because you are no longer inside looking out, no longer a separate self encountering other separate selves. You are the field in which everything appears, the space in which all experience happens, the awareness that is aware of both body and world and the apparent boundary between them. This is why the Sufis after Fana speak of Baka, of remaining, of continuing to function in the world but from union rather than separation. You still speak, still act, still appear to be someone, but you know the secret. Know that there is no one here. Know that the beloved is speaking through this mouth, is acting through these hands, is appearing as this temporary form while remaining always what it is, infinite, eternal, one. And paradoxically, this recognition makes you more human, not less, more tender, more present, more able to love genuinely. Because when you are no longer defending a separate self, you are no longer afraid. When you are no longer trying to protect your position, you are no longer in conflict. When you are no longer separate from what you encounter, you are no longer in relationship with it, you are it. And being it, you care for it as you would care for yourself. As you do care for yourself. Because it is yourself. Is the one self appearing as multiplicity. Rumi lived from this recognition for the rest of his life. Poured out poetry that tried to express the inexpressible. Tried to point to what cannot be pointed to. Tried to use words to undo the world words create. And the poetry worked. Not because it explained union, but because it transmitted it. Reading Rumi, you feel something beyond the meaning of the words, something that vibrates at the frequency of truth, and that vibration does its work, loosens the boundaries, softens the defenses, reminds you of what you know but forgot. You know this truth already, have always known it. The knowledge is not new. Is ancient, is prior to your birth, prior to the appearance of separation, prior to the story of being someone who was born and will die and in between is trying to find their way. The knowledge is, you are that. You are what you seek. You are the beloved disguised as the lover. You are God pretending to have forgotten. You are the one playing at being separate so that reunion can be experienced, so that love can love itself, so that the infinite can know itself through finite form. But knowing this intellectually does nothing. Understanding it conceptually changes nothing. The knowledge must drop from head to heart, must become lived reality rather than believed philosophy. And this dropping happens not through more understanding, but through grace. Through the moment when the beloved decides to reveal itself to itself. When the game of hide and seek reaches its natural conclusion. When the lover is ready, which means when the lover has exhausted all attempts to make themselves ready and has finally given up. So what do you do? How do you prepare for what cannot be achieved? How do you ready yourself for what only happens when you stop trying to be ready? You do what Rumi did. You lament. You long. You wound yourself open. You drink the wine that ruins you. You whirl until there is no you left to whirl. You live as if separation were real while suspecting it is not. You love desperately while knowing love is all there is. You die daily while discovering you cannot die because you were never born. This is the path that is not a path, the way that is waylessness, the technique that is surrender of technique. You cannot follow it because following implies someone separate who follows. You can only be it, which you already are, which you have never stopped being, which you are remembering right now as these words dissolve into the silence they came from. Listen, beyond the words, beyond the voice speaking them, beyond the mind receiving them. Listen to what is listening, to the awareness that is aware of thoughts and voice and meaning. That awareness is not yours, is not contained in your head, is not private or personal or belonging to the one you think you are. That awareness is the beloved, is God's own self-knowing, is the one consciousness appearing as all consciousness, and you are not separate from it, have never been separate from it, are it pretending to be you so it can experience the joy of reunion. Rest in this recognition, not as something you achieve, but as what you are, not as a state you enter, but as the reality you never left, not as future enlightenment, but as present truth momentarily obscured by the story of seeking. You are the beloved. The beloved is you. There is no distance, no separation, no journey to complete. Only this, only now, only love recognizing itself in the mirror of form and laughing at how convinced it was that the reflection was other, how seriously it took the game, how real the separation seemed. And the laughter is tender, is full of love for the game, for the seeker, for the search that was always love looking for itself, for the wound that was always love opening itself, for the whirling that was always love celebrating itself, for every moment of apparent separation that was love's way of creating the possibility of union. Rumi says there are 1,000 ways to kneel and kiss the ground, 1,000 ways to return to what you never left, 1,000 forms the one love takes, and your way is your way. Your wound is your opening. Your longing is your prayer. Your seeking is love seeking itself through you. And it will find what it seeks, is finding it now, has always found it, because what it seeks is what is seeking. So rest, beloved. You are home, have always been home. The journey is over, was never real except as love's play, as God's hide and seek with itself, as the one pretending to be lost so the joy of being found could be experienced. And now the pretending can stop. Now the masks can drop. Now the lover can dissolve into the beloved and discover there was only ever one heart beating in all chests, one breath breathing all beings, one love loving itself through infinite forms. You are that one, have always been that one, will always be that one, and nothing you do or fail to do can change this truth. You can forget it. You can doubt it. You can seek it elsewhere, but it remains unchanged, unchanging, the eternal reality beneath the temporary appearance of separation. Separation was the dream. Union is waking up, and you are waking up now, not to something new, but to what has always been true, to what you are beneath all the stories, to what you have always been beneath all the seeking. The beloved. not separate from you, not other than you, not above you or beyond you or waiting for you to become worthy. You are the beloved, and the beloved is all there is. Rest in this, be this, light as this, not as achievement but as recognition, not as becoming but as being, not as arrival but as always having been here, always being here, always remaining here even while appearing to leave. The search is over. The separation has ended. The union is complete. Not because something happened, but because nothing ever happened except love knowing itself. And you are that knowing. You are that love. You are. The journey is complete. You've traveled far tonight. Through shadows, through light, through depths most never see. Your mind has done its work. You can rest now. This is the still point. Your anchor in the sea of thought. A place you can always return to whenever the world becomes too loud. Thank you for listening. Thank you for trusting this space, for trusting yourself. Sleep well. Good night.